normally, depending on if I train in the morning or not, I will, if I do, sometimes I'm gone before my girls wake up. I have 2 daughters. If I'm home when they wake up, we eat breakfast together, together with my husband as well. And then we'll all get on the road more or less around 7 o'clock. I think there's a few things that great leaders or great managers, maybe more, what I think they have to be able to listen and not find the solutions for people. People don't come to you to tell them if they have an ambition themselves. They don't want to be told what to do. They want someone to coach them to sort of give feedback on what they're doing. I think following on to that, I think it's true delegation. Very often when you work with people, people say, oh, but I delegate everything. But then when you start talking to them, they're actually going in, and if it's not done the way that they wanted it to be done, it's actually not good. So if you're delegating, you actually have to give the whole responsibility and the thought process to the person. I don't get it that much nowadays, but when you were younger, you were always supposed to be, they always got a bit confused. Are you the manager, or who are you in this setting? And you always had to sort of establish yourself a little bit more. I think as a leader as such, I think the traits should be the same. You still want a manager that you can look up to and that you can trust. I think that's the most important part in any relationship. But you have differences in how you have to approach that and how you get people to buy into you as a leader. And that is also where you have to be flexible with who you're actually talking to. I think it is that you have to realize yourself you're not always going to be there. As an example, my kids started kindergarten when they were really, really small. My youngest was 3 months and my oldest was 5.5 months. So I was not there when they took their first steps. Typical one of these things that everyone said, oh, it's so fantastic. But I love the way the teachers did it, because you realize afterwards. So I think it was my oldest daughter stood up and walked when I came in. And they're like, oh, she hasn't walked before. And then you realize the likelihood that she stood up and walked when I came in is quite small. It's probably something they said to just make me feel better. But I think it's also the thing now when my kids go to school, I will not be the mom who's there at every event. I will not be the mom who can do all the bake sales, who can participate in everything. And it's just something I have accepted that is the case. And the important part there is that my kids know that I try, and that I am as disappointed for their bigger events if I can't be there as they are that I'm not there. That is, if I am available, I will definitely come. One thing that sometimes happens with women, and that you sort of have to point out, is that people assume that if you have small kids, you're not interested in something. Or if you have this, you're not, if you have a family. Like, I don't think my colleagues, when they be asked to move to Hong Kong or Singapore, gets asked, is your wife okay with this? It's sort of assumed that is already, I get that question quite a lot. That, you know, what does your husband say about moving and so on? And that's something that, being as blunt and straightforward as I am, I have usually told them quite clearly that is not the case, and that this is a decision for the two of us. But I think that is the typical, that is a lot of assumptions. I don't know, when I was pregnant with my first child, at that time in the Netherlands, my boss sat me down when I was probably 7 months pregnant, and he asked, are you coming back after? And I just started laughing. I was like, you really don't know me if you even ask me that question. So, you know, you get these questions, but it's more that people assume that you're going to fit into a certain mold. I don't think outright blocked, but where you get it is that you have very much the boys' club, which is more the sort of informal way that you sometimes really struggle with getting into if you are not a boy, part of the boys club. So I think that's probably the part where you can see it, that these kind of informal finding out about things, outright block, no. I don't have any good example of a single person, but for example, someone I find quite interesting in that way is the new Prime Minister in New Zealand, because she's very young, she just got elected, and she's just like, well, I'm young, I'm going to have a baby, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to put my whole career at hold. And I think that kind of symbol is very important, because it's the kind of thing that you don't see that much, and people need to hear that you actually can do it that way, because I assume that her husband is then going to take care of the baby. So I think it's maybe not so much a person, it's more a trait that you see in certain people, that sort of, I'm going to do it my way, and I'll show you what my way is, and you can follow if you want to. I think that's more my inspiration in that way. I think you have to define for yourself what does have it all mean. Because for me, it means that I probably do a lot less than I should at home in that way. But I'm fine with that, because I like to spend my time with my family when I'm off, and I like my work. I'm not aspiring to also have the perfect household. And I think that is one of the biggest things that very often I think it's the pressure from the outside that defines what is have it all actually means. The problem very often when you work outside your normal work hours is that you let it drag on. What I try to do is that I sit down, do 2 hours efficiently, and like try to get everything done, and then I stop and put it away again. The problem you hear from a lot of people is that they sort of go back and forth to the work, and then they work a little bit there and a little bit there, which means that you destroy your whole weekend. For me, it's very much being part of something bigger and driving change in where I'm working, and feeling that that change is appreciated, that you're getting somewhere with it, that you get into a flow at work. That for me is more success than the bells and whistles that you get around it, that, oh, I'm on that level and so on. It's really that don't listen too much on what the world around you says. Try to define for yourself what is important in that way.